I think that trying to generate your own material will not only, maybe you'll get it made, but it'll also give you a better sense of what it is that you want to do. And the other thing is that, back when I was starting out, to get a camera and an editing bay and a sound package, that was a big deal. Like, that was a big investment, and it was all 35 millimeter and Nagras and all kinds of, like, Steenbeck. I mean, now it's all right here. Go make your movie.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode brought to you by our sponsors at Blinkist. Hey everybody, welcome to Impact Theory. Today's guest is one of the most prolific actors to make a home on the big screen. Having starred in a litany of the most iconic films in the history of cinema across 5 different decades, I might add, there are precious few actors who have had the kind of towering career that he's already had, and he's still going strong. And that really isn't empty hyperbole. This is just a tiny fraction of his unbelievable filmography. Footloose, Animal House, Diner, A Few Good Men, Friday the 13th, Apollo 13, Mystic River, X-Men First Class, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Oliver Stone's widely celebrated retelling of the assassination of America's 35th president, JFK. He's worked alongside such industry titans as Meryl Streep, Sean Penn, Clint Eastwood, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, John Lithgow, Kevin Costner, and the iconic Jack Nicholson, to name but a few. And that's just his film work. He's also made the jump to TV to take part in the new golden age of storytelling, with shows like The Following, I Love Dick, Taking Chance, for which he won a Golden Globe for his performance. So please help me in welcoming the man that none of us are separated from by more than 6 degrees, the star of the new horror thriller You Should Have Left, the legendary actor, Kevin Bacon. Kevin, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Dude,
an absolute pleasure. Your career is crazy. When I think about the number of films that you've been in that have really left their mark on cinema, it's pretty staggering. What is it like right now, given the shutdown of the film industry? How's that been? Do you see a path forward? Like, when are we going to get back to sort of business as usual?
Well, I would start by saying, just in general about the shutdown, I try to wake up every day and feel as much gratitude as I can for the fact that I have a roof over my head and I've got plenty of food to eat, and that I live a very privileged lifestyle, that I have my wife is with me, and we have our health. And, at this point, my family is all healthy. I'm the youngest of 6, and I have 2 children myself. My wife has a lot of people in her family, and everyone seems to be pretty healthy. So that's where I try to start each day, just with that kind of feeling of feeling pretty lucky in this situation. I'm someone who really likes to work, as you probably see from my IMDb page. There were a lot of times when I probably just went to work because I just wanted to be busy, possibly without really being as choosy as I should have been, and it's just a really strong work ethic that I have. It's a combination of that, and it's having a strong work ethic, and also, having been in situations where, I didn't have a pot to piss in, and every job I thought was going to be my last, and I was, trying to, I was running out, the money was leaving my bank account, and I was trying to, just work to put something back in there. And so I always have this, somebody offers me something or gives me an opportunity to go, I'm like, I better take it, because, this may be it. I'm trying to get better about being choosy. When you look at that, you go, if you're really shut down for month after month, it's not a vacation, and I don't really like vacations, to tell you the truth. I don't really like to have vacation that much. I mean, we will do like a Christmas kind of you kind of have to shut down because the whole industry shuts down. But generally, my wife and I, both of us, even though we love home and we love to, cook, and we're not people that like to go out to premieres and do all that kind of stuff, we are vagabonds and we are our own version of workaholics.
Now, you've talked about actually enjoying being on a tour bus.
Yeah.
So the vagabonding thing, like, as somebody who's known for having a pretty solid home life, what is it about the call of the road, enjoying being on the tour bus and traveling around? I'm assuming most of the time you and your wife are off on different projects. So what is the call of the road?
Well, when I say, when I talk about the tour bus, I'm really saying that in general, my life has been a tour bus, even before we put the band together, because people kind of think that if you're an actor, you live in Hollywood and then you do all your work in Hollywood. And that's really not the case. I mean, I think I've probably made a movie or a TV show in at least 50% of the states in this between the two of us, let's say, So we're going from place to place to place, and we're bouncing back and forth from New York to LA to wherever. So we always feel like our suitcases are packed. It's like we have a very, very solid kind of home situation, but we always know that those suitcases are packed, and in a weird kind of way, that really feeds us. Now, what is it about? I don't know. Are we running from something, or I'm not really sure what the psychological reason for that is, but I know that it's something that feeds both of us. And it's also,
have you ever explored that in your lyrics? I know you've talked about how your lyrics are a lot more personal. So what, in writing those lyrics, what are some of the ideas that you explore? I've heard you sort of tease before, like, are we running towards something? Are we running away from something? But really in your lyrics, I imagine you've explored it. What is sort of the layer revealed there?
Yeah, I definitely explore it in my lyrics, but a lot of times. But listen, I wouldn't be alone in that as a songwriter to talk about the road. Let's face it. I mean, I'm not the first guy who talked about the road. I mean, the last thing I think I probably wrote around that thing was a song called "I Feel You," and I was on the road, and we pulled into Jackson, Mississippi, and I was struck with seeing this old Greyhound bus station, and they had a plaque about the Freedom Riders who had come through Jackson, Mississippi during the Civil Rights Movement. And I just kind of kicked the song off with that. But it was really about, it's called I Feel You. Or what's it called? I think it's called I Feel You, yeah. And it's really about feeling her, wherever I am. That if you really care about somebody and you're on the road, there's two options. One is that it completely fucks up your relationship, and you see that happen a lot of times. People, have a hard time pulling it together. And the other is that you just try to keep that person with you in some sort of a way. And it's challenging, that's challenging. There's a lot to do with that. But
I'm actually really interested about that. So my wife's British. So at the beginning of our relationship, it was long distance. And I realized that, just like you said, I had a choice. I could sort of flip a switch in my head and put distance between us and not sort of lament over the absence and the distance. Or I could really lean into that sort of ache and missing her. And I found that it was actually way more productive to lean in, even though it made it hurt more and that it made me really hate being apart. Mm-hmm. But it kept this sort of magnetism going. Is that a strategy that you employ?
Yeah, sure. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Yeah, I mean that's a definite strategy, and I do lean into it. And we had many years where, except for a couple of projects, where I was in Africa and she was working someplace else, and another time I think I was, we kept it down to our best ability. We kept it down to 2 weeks, and sometimes we would fly to the middle of the country just to meet, if we were on either side, just to, make the trip and just kind of randomly. And we spent a lot of time in airports and a lot of time on airplanes and planes, trains, and automobiles. So listen, we're people that like to travel. So being in this kind of a lockdown and being such a working kind of person, I'm 61 years old, and there's a lot of people who are slowing down, playing golf, whatever, taking a boat out, or whatever it is that they reading a book, sitting on the couch, watching sport, things that you hear people say, I just want to, and I get it. And the truth is that I'm not I don't dig ditches. I'm a professional pretender, so I live a very, in terms of like my lifestyle, it's very cushy, but I also really have no desire to slow down at this point in my life. And so what I find is that during this time, I find a way to be busy. I wake up and give myself some kind of a job. And it could be cleaning out the basement, or it could be writing a song, or it could be developing a movie idea, or it could be talking about something of a charitable nature, or whatever it is. But I definitely give myself a job pretty much every day, and I realize that I think that's what I do anyway. Like my family makes fun of me because if we do end up on some kind of a vacation, which we do sometimes at Christmas, I'm there with the guidebooks, and I've like scheduled every day within an inch of its life. And I'm not like let's go down to the beach and just like sit. I'm like, we're going doing this, we're going doing that,
That's interesting. So when you think about getting old, like, are you imagining sort of a, oh God, Peter Fonda, I think it was, that was, on Golden Pond, and he was like super fucking old. Is that it? Like, we're acting until we're in the coffin? Or have you crossed some sort of, if I manage to do this, then I'll sort of gracefully go into true old age?
No, I haven't gotten there yet. I wish I could tell you that I had. What I think is that, Peter Fonda, he was the right guy to play that part, and that's one of the nice things about the gig that I have. It's different than, say, if you're a surgeon, you got to say, it's time. It's time. My hands are too shaky. My mind is not where it used to be. If you're a football player, your body is no longer able to do those things that it could do. If you're an actor, there's old guys to play, and there's things that you can explore, because what's the parts that you're getting is somehow starting to line up with what you're feeling and what you're going through in your life. And my theory about the acting thing for me is to use yourself and lose yourself, because every part that I go into, what else do I have to use but the experiences that I've had and the things that in my body and my face and my voice and, all my stuff. But I want to lose myself into the role. I don't want to feel like it's Kevin. So I'm totally fine with no longer, kind of being whatever a lead character, in a movie situation should be. But the truth is that I was never really that guy anyway. I had a moment, in Footloose where I was kind of like the guy. But when you really look at what's worked for me, it's always been character parts. So if I'm going to, continue the rest of my career as a character actor, I think that's great. I also feel the same way about, songwriting. And songwriting is a little different because every time I write a song, I feel like it's the last one I wrote. And so I don't know if that tap, has the potential of being turned off, or whether or not at least anything that I would be proud of would be turned off. But when it comes to acting, I want to be, Peter Fonda and on Golden Pond, and then just die, and that would be great.
Yeah. So the recent movie that you did, or at least the one that came out, You Should Have Left, thematically, that is really interesting to me and seems to line up with where you're at now. And I know that you say that you actually don't want to step into a character that is Kevin, and obviously that character isn't you. But thematically, when I think about some of the things you've talked so powerfully about, you really touch on that in the movie, which, by the way, is creepy as fuck. And so I have no doubt that that one, it was Blumhouse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jesus, between you and the talent behind the camera and then partnering up with Blumhouse, I'm super excited to see how far that one goes. Very, very interesting. Was that part of what drew you to the project? I know that you actually shepherded the project, but was that notion of being an older guy who's sort of, in the movie anyway, representing that transition of age by being married to somebody younger and the anxieties that produces, was that something specifically you wanted to pursue because of that theme?
Yeah, I think that the writer-director is named David Koepp. He directed me in a film called Stir of Echoes 20 years ago. And we had a really good relationship, and we actually had an actual real friendship that has lasted through those 20 years. And I kept kind of, I don't know, just bugging him about doing something together. And Kira, actually tossed out the idea of some kind of a horror movie surrounding a marriage. And after 20 years of trying to talk David into getting, hiring me again, that idea sort of sparked something in him. And he's an amazing writer. And so we started to knock these ideas around. And pretty much right away, he felt like it should be a second marriage, and that we were talking about the paranoia. It's kind of what we were talking about before, of being away from somebody and wondering, if you see someone all the time, then exactly you think exactly like where they're at, right? But if they're gone or they're off in another world or at work or with colleagues, or in this case on a movie set, and
doing a sex scene.
Yeah. Exactly. Your mind can go a lot of different places. So in order to kind of amplify that, and also to give the character a sense of losing his relevance, we wanted to make his wife much younger than him and make her into an actor. These are very kind of like specific things that we talked about very early on. So yeah, I think that's not specifically what's going on in my relationship, because my wife is younger than me, but she's not that much younger than me. David is on his second marriage. His wife is a bit younger than him, but again, it's not exactly the same thing. But there are those kinds of themes were things that we talked about very specifically.
Yeah, marriage is obviously somewhere, like as an interviewer, I will just tell you, as soon as we had gotten you to agree to be on the show, I'm like, I've got to ask him what the secret to a long marriage is. And then, of course, in my research, I find that you fucking get more annoyed about that question than just about, it's like the same as people making you dance at a wedding to the Footloose theme song. But at the same time, dude, like you've created like the ultimate trap in your marriage, and you guys still have this incredibly thriving marriage. Do you really see yourself as just sort of like, I just do what I do? Or like, it just seems like there has to be some strategy that you guys are deploying.
I wish there was, man. I wish there was. Then I could tell you what the strategy was, but I feel a couple of things about that. One is that, there's so much DNA and there's so much nurture versus nature that makes two people able to spend time together. And I think that marriage, to me, look at the statistics, it just doesn't work. It's like we set it up to be this big thing, and we put it on this pedestal, and we, create these ceremonies so that it's actually supposed to be a bond that's from a higher power, and God is there. And then you spend all the money you have, all your parents have, you spend on the wedding, and you worry about insulting the people that don't come. And how many marriages survive? Not even in my industry, but in America, I don't really know. Is it a third or something like that? So for me to say, well, this is what we do, and if you do it, it just it doesn't hold any water, And the other thing about it is, it's as much a mystery to me as it is to anybody else, and the reason that I have a hard time with it is not that I'm opposed to talking about it, but generally when I'm asked about my marriage, it's on a red carpet and they're looking for a soundbite, or it's not in this kind of long form situation, or it's an interview, but they're just going to take like 3 little words and put it up there, and that's, to me, frankly, disrespectful to the marriage. It's disrespectful to the people that are going to try to read it and go, well, Kevin Bacon says, whatever, she's my best friend, or some bullshit like that, but it's also disrespectful to the marriage. So I don't know. I do think that we started this out talking about the pandemic, and I think that the pandemic has been a really interesting test for it. You would kind of go, well, they've been together so long that it's not going to be an issue for them. But the truth is, we've been together for a long time, as we spoke about, always being able to split. You know what I mean? And always knowing that pretty soon we were going to split. And it literally yesterday, the industry is maybe chipping away at starting to get open. And if it does kick back in, chances are I'll be working in New York and she'll be working in LA. And because travel is now, a little bit, dicey, we will probably be apart for a longer stretch than we are used to. And we were laughing about it because I said, it's going to be fun. You've had plenty of me. We've been able to bank some serious, hours that we've never spent this much time together in our marriage ever.
Yeah, the whole idea of being able to maintain a relationship when you have that sort of you're spreading apart, you're coming back together, which is, again, exactly what my wife and I went through at the beginning, becomes a whole different question on whether you can navigate being together. And it's interesting, my wife and I have taken an incredibly tactical approach to being married. From the time I was 14, I started having a recurring nightmare of being in a loveless marriage. Now, I didn't recognize it at the time, but my parents obviously were that's what was happening to my parents. So right, okay. I was in the middle of it, but I was too young to understand what was going on. Right. Literally 3 weeks after I left for college, my parents split up. So I'm picking up on something growing up. I start having this recurring nightmare. And so when I got in, deciding to propose to my wife was difficult. That I was like, oh man, do I really want to do this? I had always thought that I was never going to get married. And so I was like, I don't know about. Once I decided to propose, then it was like, okay, I'm shutting that door. Like I'm only moving forward with this. But I thought the only way to avoid being trapped is to like be aggressively open, honest, talk about it, say like, what do we have to do to make this rad? Like, I don't want to be in a marriage that works. I want to be in a marriage that's fucking awesome. Like I want this to be the most important thing in my life, the most joyful thing in my life. And so we have had, because we were so young when we got together, we've had to have like all of these like rules, what we call rules of engagement. Like, how do you deal with an argument? What does that look like? How do you deal with distance and absence? And, there used to be times where, because my wife would go home to see her family at Christmas. And so it would be, maybe 2 weeks and I would be going crazy and out of my mind. And so it was having to realize that was actually advantageous, and to distance myself from her emotionally would be deeply problematic. And so it's very interesting to me that you guys have had such a tremendously successful relationship, being very, and I don't know if you would use the word laissez-faire, so stop me if that doesn't feel right, but just a more sort of natural take what may come. And to your point about, nature and nurture, it's interesting how it plays out.
I wrote a song called Play, which was probably, I guess, 2 or 3 songs ago that we released. And it was a little bit of a reaction to these very things. And, people will often say to me, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And listen, I for one person and 2 people, if
you will not offend me if you're like, you're a crazy motherfucker for talking about this as work. I don't mind.
All that stuff is working for you. How long have you been married?
We've been married for 18 years.
Okay, so it's working, right? Because that's a lot. That's like a Hollywood platinum, and but this song that I wrote is called Play, and it's the basis of it is, when you really ask me, like, what is it, the work that we put in, or is it the fact that we like to play together? And I kind of feel like for us, it's a little bit more the fact that we like to play together. Like,
do you guys sing together?
All the time, yeah.
I didn't realize, I didn't realize how well you could sing. Fuck. Dude, your voice is incredible.
Thank you.
And then your wife's voice is amazing. Was that part of what sparked for you guys initially?
No. Well, music kind of was. We would sing along to records, and we had a kind of, when we first met, we had like a freakishly kind of shared idea about things that we liked and artists that we were really big on. So we kind of bonded on that, and we would sing along. And when we first put the band together, she would sometimes come up and sing harmony, and then she kind of left, stopped doing that. So yeah, we would sing. And about probably 4 years ago or so, she had never picked up an instrument, and I got her a ukulele, and she started playing, and then we would play together, and then yeah. So that's definitely a part of what we do in this family. My kids are both musicians, and so.
Your son scored a movie that you and Kira did together.
Kira directed the movie, and he scored that. He also scored this podcast that I had recently called The Last Degree of Kevin Bacon, which was a half-hour comedy podcast, and in a totally different sort of genre thing. It was like it's comedy, and Kira's movie was much more drama, sentimental kind of drama. So yeah, he's a talented kid.
The 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing, that's a level of fame that has got to be a little strange. I'm actually curious. Like, one, you're being famous in the way that you're famous. Your name is Kevin Bacon, right? It's not Kevin, it's Kevin Bacon to us. And when that game came out and people started playing it, I remember thinking, like, this is crazy. Like, your name has transcended even you. It's like, it's now like this bigger thing. Is that weird to have like other people running with that game, your name, some piece of your identity? It's super intriguing.
Yeah, well, I've talked, and I feel that fame is a very strange beast, and at first I was very resistant to the game. In fact, for somebody that was so hungry to be famous, when I got famous, I was really like very uncomfortable with it, and I really was truly hungry as a kid, to become more famous. My dad was famous in Philadelphia, and he was really into his own fame and his own legacy. It was something we talked about, relevance, and I was kind of pushed back on that a lot. At the same time, wanting that kind of fame, and I think I wanted to be more famous than him, basically.
Is it true your dad was on the cover of Time magazine?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, in the '60s, talking about American cities, and he fought very hard to bring vitality back to the centers of cities. He loved cities, and that was at a time, when there was kind of, suburban life was the one that was the most desirable, white flight, they called it, and he was a big proponent, not just in Philadelphia but all over, of like having cities operate and be places where people could enjoy their life and be in close proximity to each other. And so he was really famous for that kind of stuff, urban renewal, I guess they called it. And I was so driven, but when I got really famous, I got really kind of resistant of it, and I've really over time learned to live with it in the same way that I've learned to be okay with the game. I thought it was a joke, basically, at my expense. All that being said, as cool as the game is, and we have gotten a chance to take it and take me out of the concept, because a lot of times I feel like it's really not about me. It's really about the hunger that we have for connectivity as a people, as a nation, as a global entity. That's the reason why Facebook blew up, and that's the reason why social media is what social media is. It's that hunger.
Interesting. So one of my favorite stories about you is your take on Diner. And this dude, you probably know this about yourself. You're never going to say it out loud, so I will say it for you. And this is something that really inspires me. So take Diner, right? So you're with these extraordinary improv artists, and you realize, okay, I'm not sure I'm yet where I want to be with improv. So I know the value that I can bring is to sit back and react and give the camera somewhere else to go to help the audience really connect with what's happening. And I thought that's so fucking brilliant. Or when you said, you know what? I don't actually want to pursue being a leading man. I want to be a character actor, which I think has given you the career that it's given you, because you can have that level of versatility.
Yeah, I agree.
There's like a powerful humility in that. So I get this sort of downplay of, well, I've just been in a lot of ensemble pieces. But yeah, I think there's something more profound than that.
I mean, in terms of, I completely agree with the character thing. I mean, I always was a character actor. I had a moment as a leading man. I was trying to chase still being a leading man when I went, wait a second, you're really a character actor, because they're all characters. Even if you got the biggest part in the show, it's a character in my mind, and that was a seminal kind of moment for me, for sure. But the other thing I'll say about something like Diner, and somehow instinctually, I think I knew this, and I can't really pinpoint what it was. And that is that in our business, in the movie business, I got into it because I was hoping for the feeling of playing in a band. You know what I mean? That there was going to be a brotherhood and a sisterhood of actors. And I felt that for a while when I was doing theater, and I was doing a lot of, regional theater, off-Broadway theater, and nobody was really a big star. Everyone was there were people that were older than me and had more experience, but had bigger parts or whatever. But there was really this feeling that we were getting together to put the play across, and then to put the scene across, and that in the same way that the bass player has to listen to the drummer, if you two people are playing in a scene, you have to be dancing. It has to be harmony. There has to be a feeling there. When you get onto a movie set, right away it's different. Somebody has a bigger trailer. Somebody is called to the set last so that they don't have to wait for you to show up. Pretty much right away, the rumors are out about who's getting paid what. They treat you different in a very hierarchical way. And even in the shooting of a film, there's a separation that's created between actors as opposed to a bringing together of actors. Every once in a while, there's somebody that, does a good job with that. Barry Levinson being one, put us in a shitty hotel in Baltimore and, was basically like, you guys have to, feel like you're friends and, so go hang out, it was smart. But if you start a scene and you feel like you're really relating to yourself or multiple actors, you shoot a wide shot. Then the next time you do another setup, there's some gear in between you and that actor. And then you get to a close-up and there's even more gear. There's even more lights and there's even more cameras. And you're sitting off in some corner on an apple box, and the actor is there. You can barely see him. And as the actor, you start to go, well, all this is really about is my close-up, so I don't have to feel this connection to this person anymore. And then you go and you see the movie and you're cut out or you're cut in or you're whatever. And so it created a feeling to me of every man for himself and a sort of kind of isolation. And I think that I instinctually wanted to push back against that. So in the case of Diner, yeah, I was looking around and I was thinking to myself, boy, everyone's doing so great, and they're going to get bigger parts, and they're going to be more impactful, and they're going to be, but I think somehow I knew that I had to think about the play and the fact that this character has to fit into that group, because if everybody in the group is exactly the same, then it's not going to have the dynamic that a group of friends would have.
Yeah, filmmaking compared to theater. Now, I have very limited experience, but I actually did get paid to act in a play when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
The most surreal experience of my life. So I was doing this was in Tacoma, Washington. Oh. Tacoma Actors Guild, shout out. I don't even know if they still exist, but they did a summer thing with high school kids, basically. And I was doing that, and then they would audition those kids for the play that Christmas season, so it was A Christmas Carol. And I got cast, and I missed my exit driving home 3 times because I was so excited. I was in a fog. I couldn't believe it. I was so over the moon. And my part could not have been smaller. They had me playing 4 or 5 different characters, and a lot of what I did was move furniture between scenes and stuff. But dude, when I say that I had the time of my life, I felt very differently than your kids. I was beyond excited to be missing school. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. And it had this family environment. And part of, I think, what creates that family environment is, I talk to people a lot about when you embody something, your brain goes, oh, this matters. I feel this, whatever. And so if as a character, you're going through an emotion with another human being, you begin to sort of muddle those things. And it's like, whoa, I've shared these emotions with you. I've been raw. Oh yeah, wait, I was just acting. But because you're actually embodying it, you do get that sense of connection. And then oftentimes in theater, you're having to disrobe in front of them, right off the stage. And so there's a real physical intimacy to it all.
Sure.
Dude, that was so fucking cool. And then I go to film school, and just filmmaking as an art form has always captured my heart and soul, and knew that that's what I wanted to do. And because I've only ever worked on really low budget films, the just insane hours and the sleeping in the editing room and, being there and trying to create moments with the actors, and there are no trailers, no hierarchy, at least in the stuff that I've done. So it was very different, but you got another sort of family vibe. And that's part of what I've always loved about the craft. And I'm curious. So there was, in your recent film, You Should Have Left, it's so intimate and so contained. Were you guys able to create more of that vibe in that kind of environment?
Yeah, I don't mean to say that you can never have that, and I think that you certainly. It depends on the film, and and if you have, for instance, I think a lot of times it comes down from the top. So to give you an example, working with Meryl Streep, of course. I would look at Meryl Streep and think to myself, okay, this person has the career that I would most likely to aspire to, and I think she's just incredible. And here we are, and I'm going to actually do a movie with her, and I've got a pretty big part. And so you go to the table read, and you're thinking, oh boy, what's this going to be like? And she knows that, she knows that everyone is kind of feeling that. And she just disarms it right away. And I'm not really sure what she did, but she just made us all feel like, okay, we're rolling up our sleeves and we're getting to work. And, John C. Reilly was an experienced actor. David Strathairn was an experienced actor. It was like we were there to play the play and not to just kind of fight for our own moments. So I think that, I try to create that if I can. If I happen to be number one on the call sheet, that's the vibe that I want to create. So in the case of something like You Should Have Left, yeah, definitely. It was really me and Amanda and Dave. I mean, the little girl certainly you know, she's a little girl, so it's not really exactly the same kind of thing. But yeah, we felt like we were putting our heads together to, you know, create this thing together. And that's, so I do, and I know what you mean about independent films. There is a real sense of, you know, we got through this and we had these hours and we have a sense of family. It is possible to create. I worry, you know, about, at least, you know, for the time being, when we do come back to work, it's going to be a very, very different kind of vibe on a set, you know. I mean, from what,
because of the need to keep distance.
Yeah, the distance, and probably the crew will be in some version of PPE. The actors are the only people that are not going to be, you know, wearing masks, and the actors probably have masks on for the greater part of the day, and probably wear them during rehearsal, and then, you know, so it's there's going to be a lot of isolation, and it's going to be difficult. We movie people, we are thrown together sometimes with strangers. We're put into very intimate situations. I can't tell you how many times I've, you know, met somebody and they say, yeah, you know, this is you know, Susie. Okay, you know, hop in bed, or okay, this is Edward. You know, he's your dad. Okay, you haven't seen him for 20 years. We just like meeting them that, you know what I mean? It's like the crazy kind of things, not to mention the hours, not to mention the weather, not to mention the difficult shooting situations that we go through. We have it's a very intimate way of making a living, emotionally and physically. So creating that being distant is going to be tough.
Has the industry started talking about the specifics of what it will take to get back together?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's been a protocol that came out from our union, and I think the general idea is that you know, the more testing, the less risk. So I think that's going to be, you know, it's good. I don't know that much about how many tests are available, sure, but I'm guessing that that'll be a piece of it, you know, or how much testing is being done. And then, yeah, essentially all crew is the crew gets very pared down. There's a zone that is, you know, a protected kind of zone, and the actors are the only ones that are in it that are not, you know, protected.
And have they started talking timeline yet?
Yeah, you know, people are wishfully thinking fall.
Okay. And are you developing projects any differently given what's going on?
Well, I can tell you that the only thing that, in terms of that, is that Kira and I have been, we made I wrote a song in during lockdown, and you know, recorded it, and it's at home, you know, got a nice mic here, and, you know, a computer, and sent some files around, and a friend of mine produced it, and then I wanted to shoot a video for it, so I got out there with the iPhone, and I have a GoPro, and was shooting some stuff just myself. You know, I would set up the shot and walk into it, and, you know, do the whole thing. And then I was like, yeah, I sent it to an editor. Said, you know, we could really use some moving stuff. So I was like, honey, are you busy? So, and she's directed quite a bit, actually. So she came out and started shooting some stuff for me for this video, and it's kind of amazing how great it looks, and it's really come together. And now we're really talking about just making something that we just kind of create outside of a music video, you know, some kind of piece of content, and how we do that, I don't know, but this is what I talk about in terms of, you know, this desire to stay busy. So it's been fun to sort of knock those ideas around, and I think to collaborate in that kind of way. We don't really work that much together, Kira and I, but as many times as we've been together. She's directed me a couple of times. I've directed City on a Hill, my Showtime show. I've directed her a few times. We've produced some stuff together, but as long as we've been together, haven't really been that many projects. So we're now kind of open to that, and who knows, maybe that'll happen while we're locked down.
Yeah, I was going to say, from a development perspective, taking care of the other lead actress, definitely being somebody that you don't have to worry about, be a good time to develop something with her. When did you start developing projects? That seems to me like, as an actor, just such a smart move.
I've done it for a really long time, but honestly, I wish I had even worked harder at it. But back in the 80s, if you had a hit movie, they just gave you a development deal. Studios just did it. They had office space. They give you an office. They pay the salary of your development person and an assistant. And I was on the Sony lot, I think. And even though I was living in New York, but I was still, going out. And we were working on things. And I don't know, it was, I think I got too, I would get really into something for a moment, and then I would go back to say, I just want to act. This is just too much, because development is really hard. As you know, it takes a long time. You have to really, and to be a producer, a good producer doesn't just have one thing. A good producer has 20 things that they're working on, because they all are going to take a long time. They're going to have a hard time getting them made. I just wanted to be actor boy on one level, and but when I talk to young actors, and certainly I talked to my daughter about this. She's an actor. I think it's a good thing to do. I think that trying to generate your own material will not only, maybe you'll get it made, but it'll also give you a better sense of what it is that you want to do. And the other thing is that, back when I was starting out, to get a camera and an editing bay and a sound package, that was a big deal. Like, that was a big investment, and it was all 35 millimeter and Nagras and all kinds of, like, Steenbeck. I mean, now it's all right here. Go make your movie. Learn how to edit.
So what is up next? What do you have lined up? I know that I tried desperately to find when the next season of City on a Hill is coming out. What's the story?
We're about 3 episodes in, and when we went into lockdown, and so I'm hoping that we can start to prep in August and shoot in September. We'll see. I mean, we have the scripts, and so far I haven't heard anything from Showtime saying anything other than they want to keep shooting it, and I really liked doing it. I like it a lot. I directed the first episode of this season, so just that I want to be seen. And beyond that, I don't know. I'm attached to a couple of things. We'll see. We'll see. But I know that I want to work, and I also, if I could really, I know I keep hitting this theme of being grateful, but one thing that is really, I'm really happy about, when I don't tend to look back, or these are the only times when I think about my career on the whole, is when I'm doing interviews. Otherwise, I'm waking up and making my coffee and then reading the paper and trying to figure out my day. Put one foot in front of the other. I don't go diner. But when I do think about it, what I think to myself is, the thing that I always wanted is the main thing that I have that I always wanted was that if somebody came to me with a role, that it wouldn't just fit into one category. And that's what I see. I get stuff kind of all over the map in terms of the types of people that I'm asked to play from different parts of the country, different, walks of life, different points of view. So I just hope that continues, because even if it's something that I don't end up doing, you you look at it and you go, well, I never have played a plumber, and I played an astronaut, and I played an X-Man, but I haven't played a plumber. I'm really thankful for that.
And when you are looking for the roles and you get something new, how do you find that hook? I know you've said that there are some times you can just hear the voice of the character, but when it isn't sort of presenting itself that fast, how do you dig in and find it?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is, kind of digging in and finding it. I mean, how do I do it? I think I just keep asking myself questions about this guy, and I think about all kinds of things that they would like or wouldn't like, or where they're from, or maybe you go into some kind of backstory and you think, well, even if it's not going to be in the script, what if his father died when he was 7, or whatever it happens to be. What if he was attacked by a dog? Whatever happens.
Is part of that driving towards specificity?
Yeah. Driving towards specificity will sometimes open up a door that you don't really know was there in terms of finding a hook. Yeah.
As a writer, that's one thing when I'm writing a story and you've got a character and you're trying to figure out how to play a scene or whatever. Oftentimes I find it is a lack of specificity that makes it harder. And you would think that in shutting doors, you're making it more difficult, but that actually makes it a lot easier. In your recent film, You Should Have Left, one thing that I thought was really interesting, and spoiler alert for anybody who's watching, truly spoiler alert, you end up playing 2 characters that are in conversation with each other, and the way that you differentiated them. But in fact, one thing I want to know, they felt like you transition, where at first I wasn't sure that was you in both roles, and then I was like, oh shit, it is him. That was really interesting. How do you, when you're going to play both roles, how do you find a way to differentiate, especially when ultimately the sort of punchline is that it's the same person?
What we tried to dig into was that other person was a manifestation of his the fear and horror in his life. So we were trying to then make something specific that would have terrified him as a young man, and then we sort of started putting the pieces together of who that would be. But that person was very specific, we stuff that you would never know in terms of his backstory. Yeah.
It's interesting. You hear actors talk about that, like, I'll write the bio of this character, whatever, it never makes it on screen. Or I've heard stories about Tarantino doing that, where he'll just write stuff that he knows is never going to make it onto the screen. But it is interesting how it really does inform choices that you make. One thing that I heard you say that I thought summed up acting really well and was a super powerful insight for somebody like me who hasn't spent time doing that, is you were talking about I Love Dick, and you were saying you can't show up and play sexy. Like, you can show up and play mad or frustrated or whatever. What is that translation into playable? What makes something playable?
Well, it's active. I'm hungry, I want to eat. I'm angry, I'm going to yell. I'm sad, I'm going to cry. It's active. Things like being sexy is more of a quality, and it's a quality that may not appeal to one person or to another. People talk about it a lot, about trying to make a character likable. And like, I can't walk into a room likably. I can walk into a room having, cold or hot or like I have to go to the bathroom or sadness, but it's it's an outside quality that you're trying to reach for, as opposed to an inside active inside thing.
Yeah, I was reading a book on directing, and it's really funny. I always tell people, and I'm sort of joking, but I actually mean it. It took me 3 years to figure out what a producer does. In film school, I legitimately didn't understand. Like, even taking the classes, I was like, I don't understand what this is. And I mean, once somebody explains it, you know, that ultimately it's the person that brings the pieces together and actually gets the film made. Like, think of all the things that it takes to herd cats, get them together, pointed in one direction, get it across the finish line, deal with financiers, all that stuff. It's like, oh, okay, cool. It's like a very logistical job. But the same was true for directing. It's like, I always thought of directing as, well, it's where you put the camera, but I had no concept of how to talk to an actor or what it meant to make something playable. And one of the, I was reading a book, and it gave like this really simple advice. And I'd actually be really interested to hear if you think this is shit advice or if it's really useful. And he said, you know, I realized I had to translate into things that are actionable. So I would say things like, play it like you're angry, play it like your son just died, play it like, you know, your wife just broke up with you. And it's like, then all of a sudden you get that sort of bundle of emotions, and you understand sort of the position that you're coming at it from. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Even though in the scene it may have nothing to do with any of those things, but you're handing them sort of an umwelt of experience or emotion that allows them to inform what they're doing. Super curious. You're nodding, so I'll take that as it's at least mildly useful.
Well, yeah.
But curious if there's a better way.
I think that every actor reacts in different ways. And a lot of times, being a good director, sometimes there's those moments where you have to come up and, you know, whisper the gem into the actor's ear that makes him, you know, think about your dog or whatever it is. You know, but a lot of times I think it's about creating a good working space where the actor can go and do their best work and encourage them to keep going further. I also think it's good, if possible, to encourage an actor to prepare, so that the time on the set is spent less trying to quote unquote get a performance from them, and more about you know, being able to frame their performance in a way that brings it to life through the lens.
Oh, makes sense. Well, Kevin, dude, thank you so much for coming on, man. And thank you for the considerable gifts that you've given to the film industry. You are definitely somebody that I hope to see in front of the camera for a very, very, very long time.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude, it's the fact that you show up so prepared and take things so seriously is self-evident. Loved your performance in You Should Have Left. Thought it was wonderful. You guys made that thing look just extraordinary. And knowing that it was contained, I'm sure partly for budgetary reasons, you just never feel it as the audience. So in front of the camera, behind the cameraman, please keep doing it. It's absolutely phenomenal. As somebody who loves film as much as I do, I'm super grateful to have had you as a part of my lexicon growing up. So
good. Thanks.
Thank you, good sir. Everybody, make sure that you watch.
Yeah.
Say it again?
We'll do it again. We'll do it again sometime.
Dude, I would love that. Anytime you've got something to promote, dude, come on. I would love that.
Yeah.
It'd be extraordinary. Guys, if you haven't, be sure to go check out You Should Have Left. In fact, Kevin, I saw it on Apple TV. Where's the best place that people can check this out?
I think it's on video demand. Wherever you get your video on demand, it can be on your TV, it can be on Apple TV. You know, there's a lot of places.
Yeah, no joke. All right, everybody, check it out. It's fantastic. Kevin, thank you again so much for being here.
Thanks, man.
All right, take care, everybody. Peace.
What's up, everybody? There is no way to build an empowering mindset or get ahead in business without constantly learning and accessing new information. And today, I want to share one of my secret weapons in the battle to learn new things and get ahead, and that is Blinkist. With our ever-changing routines, there has never been a better time to learn something new, but with thousands of options available, finding the best way to learn can be challenging, and that's why I recommend the app called Blinkist. Blinkist is a unique and powerful app. It works on your phone, your tablet, or your web browser, and Blinkist gives you the best key takeaways, the need to know information from over 3,000 nonfiction bestsellers in over 27 categories. Blinkist condenses them down into blinks, which you can read or listen to in just 15 minutes. And now Blinkist offers its members even more, including exclusive original podcasts from top authors and creative thinkers. You still get access to the entire Blinkist library with your membership, so this is all additional. Over 14 million people use Blinkist to deepen their knowledge in topic-spanning self-improvement, personal growth, management, leadership, mindfulness, happiness, and a whole bunch more. 2 books from their library that I personally highly recommend are Start With Why by Simon Sinek and The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. That is some super powerful knowledge given to you just in that super distilled form. And Blinkist is a great way. You can get the distilled information and then later go deeper if you want. It is very, very powerful to get these blinks, these nugget bite-sized distilled information so that you know exactly where to go. All right. Right now, Blinkist has a special offer just for our audience. Go to Blinkist.com/impact theory and start your free 7-day trial and get 25% off a Blinkist premium membership and up to 65% off audiobooks, which are yours, by the way, forever. That's Blinkist, spelled Blinkist, Blinkist.com/impact theory to get 25% off a premium membership and a 7-day free trial. Guys, I hope you'll give this a shot. Anything that pushes your knowledge forward, I am 1,000% behind. All right, take care and be legendary.
If you always do good work from your standards, whether you're in a project that fails or succeeds, you can live with that. But if you're doing things on other people's criteria or standards and you fail, you feel terrible.